Hi, my name is Jenny. I'm a sophomore, and this is for all three of you. Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
Diversity and opportunity.
Lewis?
Freedom and freedom. So let's keep it that way.
Will?
The New York Jets.
No, I'm gonna hold you to an answer on that. What makes America the greatest country in the world? Why is America
Not the greatest country in the world, Professor. That's my answer.
You're saying...
Yes.
Let's talk about...
Fine. Sharon, the NEA is a loser. Yeah, it accounts for a penny out of our paycheck, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. If liberals are so fucking smart, how come they lose so goddamn always?
Hey.
And with a straight face, you're gonna tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom.
All right.
And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars, acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men who were revered. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. Enough?
Welcome to F Your Feelings. This episode's going to be a little different than most. We are F Your Feelings, and in this scenario, we are still going to be F Your Feelings, but it's towards the government. Because the government is shit, and they don't care about us. They're only doing what is good for them. Today, we're going to be covering a case out of St. George, Utah. Courtney Townsend went missing. She was missing for 6 months. We just recently discovered the remains May 27th of this year and identified as Courtney. And today we have her sister on with us, Dallas. How are you doing today, Dallas?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for joining us. We really think that getting your story out there, since it is so fresh, that we can hopefully get the people to see it, and people will get behind you and help you in any way that they can. And
That'd be great.
and if you would, go ahead and kind of tell us the story of Courtney and what was going on prior to her coming up missing, and then the process and the atrocities of the sheriff's department or police department.
So Courtney, she went missing. She went missing on November 16th was the last time anybody had seen her or spoke to her. The day that she went missing, she had stolen our mom's car and some belongings, sentimental and valuable items. Right before my mom reported the car as stolen, my sister had been pulled over by the Hurricane City Police Department. She didn't have a driver's license at the time. She just gave the officer her name, and he went into his patrol car and searched her up and stuff. He ended up giving her a citation for speeding. Right before the officer was walking away from the vehicle to let her go, she tried to offer him a box, like a little jewelry box with an envelope folded into the middle of it. She tried to give it to him, and he said no, he couldn't accept it. And then she tried to offer it to his wife. He again said no, he couldn't take it, and then told her to have a good day, and she was let go. During the traffic stop, she was asked where she was going, and she told the officer at the time that she was on her way to Cedar City. And that's the last anybody had spoken to her or had seen her. My mom's vehicle was later discovered in Duck Creek, Utah. The vehicle was reported on the 19th of November when it was discovered, and it had been completely just burned to a crisp, just charred. And to me, I'm not a professional, so don't take this as a professional opinion, but to me, it does look like an accelerant was used. I have emailed over some pictures, so you guys can probably see what I'm talking about with those. The car had been reported, but there was still no sign of Courtney. The Officer Cram, who was the one that filed the report for the car that was found, he had been speaking to my mom and had asked what the car would look like so that they can determine whether it was her car or not. Originally, they had thought that it was a BMW. So my mom had sent him a picture of the car and informed them that, yes, it was her car. And she also let the officer at that time know that Courtney was missing and hadn't been heard from since the 16th. And she had asked them if they would do a search of the area where the car was discovered because Courtney was missing. And so we wanted to see if they would be able to find her possibly. But they told her that they knew without a doubt that she wasn't on that mountain. They didn't do a search to verify that she wasn't on the mountain. They just sent my mom a text and said that there's no way that she's on the mountain. And then that's when everything shit hit the fan, basically. We haven't been getting any answers. We still haven't found out anything about what's going on with Courtney up until I started making a big deal about it on Facebook in February, and which is after that point when the backpack showed up at the St. George Animal Shelter.
Wait, so before we get into that, which is super valid, but let me ask you a couple of questions. So when I personally knew Courtney, I've had multiple interactions with her and even a very friendly relationship with Courtney. Courtney is extremely charismatic. She's kind. She's bubbly. She's one of those souls that you see and you're immediately intrigued. Just a total, almost like a she just shines. Courtney's built different, always been built different from my experiences with Courtney. A very loving and kind and compassionate mother, very friendly, bubbly, and anybody around Courtney wanted to be around Courtney from the side of Courtney that I saw.
Yeah, no, she had a definite way of getting people just to love her instantly, always. She's a good people person.
And Courtney's very small as well. I mean, how tall is Courtney?
I think she's about 4'11", and then she weighs maybe 105 pounds soaking wet. She's very tiny.
Courtney is very tiny.
Yeah.
With the city officer and with her getting pulled over, at that time the car had not been reported stolen. Is that correct?
Right. It had been about half an hour before the car been reported stolen when she got pulled over.
And I feel like it's very important to the viewers to know as well too. Courtney was having mental health issues, and Courtney was on some heavy narcotics at the time. Is that correct?
It is, yes. The drug usage escalated when her husband came into her life. He was extremely abusive, and she just didn't know of any other way to cope with him. He was stalking her. He wouldn't leave her alone. She was terrified. She didn't know what else to do. She didn't know what to do. And I'm not saying turning to drugs is the right thing to do, but she just didn't know what else to do to make things better.
I think it's important that we say that on this situation with this case, because Courtney was involved in that, the mishandling of this has been the ball has been totally dropped, right? Like, because of a few of Courtney's decisions, it has negated the facts and the seriousness of the situation in a nonchalant way, which could have, one, either helped prevent this, or two, it could have at least brought some justice and closure to Courtney's situation and case. Right. And I think there's a few other factors that have led into it too, and I'll definitely bring those up. But with the box or the jewelry box that was given, was there ever the officer able to ever show body or video cam of it when Courtney was trying to give him the box? Like,
it's in the body cam footage. The email I sent to you, it should be in there.
Okay. And we'll have to pull that up and look at that as well. But was that not grounds to be suspicious with him in?
I would have thought so personally, yes.
Bribing an officer.
I don't know if, even if he hadn't thought of it as bribing the officer, he should have thought of it as, okay, what if she's trying to communicate with him in a way that, what if she had wrote "help me" on that envelope, because her husband was stalking her. She had thrown her cell phone a week before she went missing. The cell phone we knew that she had at the time, she had thrown it out the window on the freeway because he was stalking her. He was following her everywhere. She couldn't get away from him. And this envelope that she tried to give to the officer, it makes me wonder if that wasn't her trying to cry out for help in a way, without doing it in a way that her husband would find out.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are things that people overlook, and during the traffic stop, if they appear to be under the influence, then they're going to disregard. And I truthfully think that is a problem, right? Because we look at people in a way that they're obviously going to cause problems, and this is going to be a waste of my time. And I think that is a problem in itself. If so we talk about law enforcement. I think that we need law enforcement, but they need to be better trained. And I can see that this is the case that obviously they dropped the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you. You say they need to be better trained, which is funny because one of the conversations that my mom had with the detectives, with Detective Lewis from St. George Police Department, in regards to the way that they've been handling this case in Kane County, he says that they've been handling things inappropriately, and it's possibly because they have been trained differently, according to him. That's why they train.
And it may not be trained differently, right? Because we tend to get complacent. And when the experiences that you're given throughout your force, your time on the force, you're creating your own training, right? Because they always say practice makes perfect. Well, that's not true. Practice makes permanent. So what's happening is they're training themselves as time goes, and they're disregarding certain things. I'm sorry. Go ahead, River.
I think it's very important to also say too that Kane County is a very rural and very small police force. It's not a big one like you would see in Las Vegas, and even St. George City is a very small, undermanned police department. So there is some things, but with it being in Kane County and in Washington County, which are both within inside Utah, it does cause a little bit of, I think, potential for miscommunications with the different law enforcement officers. So that's the box, correct?
No. That's not the box. The box that she was trying to give him was a small black, like, ring box. I don't know if it's in those pictures. I'm not sure yet. If it was part of what they found, but it was a small black ring box. But there's a video of it hopefully should be in that email, the video of the body cam footage. I tried to attach it all in the Dropbox.
You did phenomenal.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to do. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's such an overwhelming thing. I think most people can't understand that when you have a major life crisis like this, everything becomes so much more, right? Like you're doing phenomenal. And I think even just you being willing to do these kind of podcasts and really continually push it out there has been so the only reason that this case is continuing to move forward. So I want to ask you then, so we find Courtney missing, right? She gets pulled over. The officer is given a gift of a box. He refuses it, offers it to the wife, refuses it. Courtney goes on her way. Is this the body cam footage?
One is the one when he's sitting in the car. Then there's another one. The next video is the body cam footage of her, if that makes any sense. There should be two videos. There's one of him sitting in his car and then one of him walking up and interacting with her. So that citation, so not that one, but the one next to it, to the left. Click on it and maybe see what it does. The other left. Yeah, that one. Is it not pulling up the video? What is it doing? I wonder if there's another way I can get that to you somehow.
Well, and we can add that in probably.
Yeah.
So the body cam obviously would give us good indication of the mannerisms and the body language and how Courtney was feeling, but ultimately Courtney went missing.
When she in the body cam footage, she's nervous. You know, you can tell that she's nervous. Who wouldn't be? With the situation, she should have been nervous. But the fact is he didn't take her behavior or anything that she said or did, or the fact that she didn't have her driver's license on her, it wasn't her car. None of that was taken into consideration, and he just let her go. I just feel like if he had handled that situation differently, she might still be alive right now.
It's super valid to have that be always on the forefront of the mind. Okay, so Courtney goes missing. The car is finally reported stolen. You convinced your mom to have, like, at some point you're not loving your daughter if you're not, or you're not that you're not loving. At some point you're
just
not.
Needs to be tough love at some point,
right? Tough love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, soft love is loving, but it's not what is needed. So tough love. Your mom reports the car stolen. How many months or how long was the time frame between when your mom reported or when it was stolen and the car was found burnt?
3 days. It was 3 days from when it was reported stolen and when it was found burnt.
And the area that the car was found, Duck Creek,
Mm-hmm.
is a small village type community in Kane County. It is about 40 minutes from Cedar City, Utah. And so it's not anything big and surrounded, but it's right smack between Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon. So it is a very high tourist driven area. There's lots of cabins as well as families that stay there year round. Well, has there been anybody that said, I noticed a car on fire?
No, that's the funny thing is it was my aunt. My aunt lives in Orderville, and she has a friend who is the one who found the car. So she was hunting with her dad, and they came upon the car, and it had been burnt to a crisp. It wasn't. I've been trying to get a hold of this lady to get more information out of her, but that's how they found the car. She said that she went up, she opened the car door, and she went inside. One of the windows, the driver's side window, had been shattered as well. She had to bring the police department. She drove them back to where the car was found. That's how deep into the forest it was. There was no houses right in that immediate area. And that clearing, that specific clearing is like the only clearing in the area. Everywhere else is all trees and stuff, trees and rocks, and maybe some cabins here and there.
Yeah, the area, it does have aspens and pines, and it's one of the largest aspen groves. So there's a ton of trees that are very tall. So that makes a little bit of sense with the hunting. But once they found the car, what did they do, right? They brought the detectives in.
So they brought the detectives in, and then the detectives, they, like I said, they thought that the car was a BMW. They didn't put together that it was the same reported stolen vehicle from St. George. They were able to confirm it on the 20th of November with my mom, and then that's when my mom asked them if they could do a search. But at that time, they weren't treating it as... Kane County wasn't treating it as part of the missing person case. They were treating it as an arson case. So what they were thinking basically is that she stole the car, took it up on the mountain, and then set it ablaze. And then she was on the run. But if they had been communicating with St. George Police Department, and if they had been listening to what my mom was telling them, then they would have done a search of the area at that time when there was only like an inch of snow on the ground. But their excuse was they couldn't do a search. One, because they were treating it as arson. They knew that she wasn't on that mountain, according to the detective. And two, they said that they didn't know which way she could have gone because the fresh snow from the night before covered any tracks. They told me then at that time that they weren't going to be able to do a search on that mountain until midsummer when the snow fully melted. And then it wasn't until I created an event to do a search myself in May that they asked me to wait until they could do their own search first. But originally they were telling my mom that no, Courtney wasn't on the mountain. They knew she wasn't on the mountain. Without knowing, without searching, they knew she wasn't on the mountain. And obviously they were wrong.
So the car is burnt, right? They do as an arson. It goes to the insurance, and then it gets destroyed. Is that correct?
Yep. Exactly right.
But then you develop a search. You put together a search, and they say, "Wait, pump the brakes. We're now going to do the search. We don't want you guys to mess or tamper evidence. We're going to do a search."
Mm-hmm.
They put together a search, but in the meantime, in between the search time and the car burning time, there's no word from Courtney. She doesn't reach out, and Courtney's very social.
She
correct?
is so social. She's glued to her phone, this woman. She's always talking to people. She breathes social. That's just what she is.
Which for Courtney to even throw her phone out of the window because she feels as though she's being tracked. For me, I go, okay, I know
That in itself should have been cause for concern, right?
Right. Like if someone this social is being, and the Courtney I knew was very patient and kind and compassionate, never, not very an outburst of anger kind of Courtney, which I know that drugs can cause a different side for sure. But the lack of phone is still a very odd situation to me. But so in the meantime, though, we find evidence is found of Courtney's existence, correct? There was a backpack that was found.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain where the backpack was found and what was inside the backpack?
So from when the car was found November 19th and reported, whatever, up until February, the beginning of February, I can't remember exactly what day, but no sign, no word from Courtney, no sign of Courtney, no communication with Courtney, nothing. And then just randomly out of the blue, a backpack shows up, this backpack. And it was in the back of a city truck that was parked at the animal shelter in St. George. But it was parked in an area that doesn't have cameras. And they don't use the truck frequently enough to even know when the backpack got there. The reason they know it's hers is because the birth certificates, my niece and nephew's birth certificates were in there. So there was identifying documents. And then I'm not sure what else is in there. The police haven't released it. They're still holding it as evidence.
So the backpack is found with Courtney's belongings, Courtney's items, 4 months after Courtney's gone missing, 4 months after the arson. And at this point, did that give you a burst of Courtney is alive?
Not necessarily. It didn't. Not for me. I think it might have given my mom some hope. But to me, it just gave me more questions that didn't get answers. It just brought more confusion more than anything.
And did it seem weird or suspicious to you that it was in a city vehicle and that the city vehicle had no cameras, had no logs, have they described if it was in the back of a city vehicle, if it was in the inside of the city vehicle?
It was in the bed of the truck.
So in the bed of the truck was the stuff inside, did it get weathered? Was it fresh?
No. The bag looked, as you see in the picture, it just looks like it was just recently purchased and they put some stuff in there and then set it in the truck and they found it that same day is what it looks like. It doesn't look weathered to me at all.
Have they done any additional or given you any additional information on the backpack at all? Or are they even continually?
They won't give me the information because they're saying it's still an open investigation, but I'm working on getting, I'm working on it.
Okay, so then. Oh, go ahead.
So no, So if they haven't marked as a solved case, right? Solved case, which whenever I looked at it, it appeared that the missing persons case was solved, not the whole case. So if there's still an investigation going on, whenever you do a FOIA request, they can actually deny the FOIA. Now, if they say that it's solved and they're no longer going any further with it, then you can establish and file for a freedom of information, right? The FOIA request, and everything should be able to come out. In fact, you having the body cam footage is actually part of a FOIA request, right? So if they're giving you that, then you should be able to get the rest of it as well.
Well, the thing is, this is what keeps throwing me into a wall, in a hard place, is they're all in different counties. So the St. George the St. George case is Washington County, but the Hurricane Police Department and the missing person case from St. George, they're separate. So they have to put in 2 different requests.
Correct.
or multiple requests for all of these different cases.
And if one of them is still doing an investigation, then you're not going to get the information from that one, but the one that is closed, you're going to get all the information that they have.
Right, that's my plan. I'm working on getting the missing person information from St. George right now, because, like you said, it seems to have been solved, so there's no reason for it to be an open case.
Right.
You know, they found the missing person.
So
Go ahead.
backpacks found, and then tell us what's the next thing. Like, what is the next thing where you get any indication of?
So the thing with the backpack at the time is because me and her husband were arguing. We were arguing on Facebook. I was being the protective big sister, and he was just being a douchebag husband. So he, it's just weird because that's when I started to make a big deal out of her being missing, and then all of a sudden the backpack shows up, but there's no other information. There's no reason for the backpack to show up. There's no why it showed up, who put it there, when it got there. Like no questions are answered as far as that backpack goes. And still, even now, I don't know the relevance of the backpack.
Can you tell us a little bit about Courtney's husband? Because that seems like a very valid part, right? Like, in the event that I was married and I had a husband, I would be doing the legwork. I would be proactively wondering where my wife or husband is.
If my significant other went missing like my sister did, I would be moving heaven and earth to try and find out what happened to my significant other. He claimed at the time that he loved her so much and he would never hurt a hair on her head or whatever, but he's a liar, because I was witness among other people who were witness to the abuse that he put her through. She was terrified of him and he wouldn't leave her alone. He was stalking her everywhere. He broke into one of her friend's house on 2 separate occasions. He broke into their daughter's bedroom trying to get access to Courtney. There was another occasion where when we were at the hospital with our dad, me and my mom were at the hospital. My sister called my mom and was begging my mom to go with her to the ER because she thought she had some broken ribs because he had beat the crap out of her. So his I'm in love with her attitude, I would never hurt a hair on her head attitude, it's all a show. He is the fakest, most narcissistic, lying, Charles Manson, Hitler mixture. I don't understand what she saw in this, but like, this guy is, no, he is not a good person.
What has he done to help with the search?
Nothing. He's not posted anything. He never came to any of the search attempts. He never came to the prayer vigil that we did. He didn't come to the celebration of life that we had for her. I understand to some extent, just because nobody likes him. So why would you want to go to a place that nobody likes you? But that's your spouse. You're supposed to love them, through everything. So who cares what other people think?
Did they have any kids together, or hers were previous?
My niece and nephew are from previous relationships, thank God.
Had anyone ever heard him threaten her, or
he was threatened? Yeah, my mom heard him all the time. He was abusive. He was so physically abusive. My sister went to my mom, and this is going to be a little bit detailed, I guess, a little TMI, but even their sex life, she was terrified of him. He was so rough with her. And when she went to my mom, she asked, she's like, I don't know what to do, because he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop abusing her. He was so physically abusive to her, and she did not know what to do. And that's where the drugs came into play. And then ultimately the mental health issues, because how do you expect your mental health to withstand abuse like that? So I feel like because the police department added that she has mental health issues and drug addiction issues, they took that as a sign that they don't have to look for her as hard or solve her case as quickly. I don't know. But her husband is a very bad guy.
Was he ever interviewed or questioned by the police? Or
Well, according to the police, both police departments, he has been interviewed or questioned. Yes. King County implied recently that they had done some warrant searches on his home, but they didn't say what came of it. I don't know if they've done a search of the cabin that he has in Panguitch Lake because it's not in his name, that cabin. I don't think they can do a search on it without knowing for a fact that it's his. All they're telling me is that he is not off the table, but they haven't pulled his like GPS records to see where he was at the day that she disappeared. And he's just been out hiking and barbecuing and just living his best life this whole time. Not a tear shed.
that's hard.
Unfortunately, we go to the innocent till proven guilty. But at this point, it sounds like to me that
He's guilty until proven innocent.
No, that's right, but that's not what I was saying. With the law enforcement, you've got the cabin, you've got the cell phone, pinging on towers. They have to get relevance or reasonable suspicion so that they can get a warrant to be able to pull that stuff. And just having a feeling isn't enough, so they have to do their steps and their due diligence to get the information.
Well, I just feel like all the text messages and stuff, that is what they need to do that. It's reason enough. The abuse and stuff. I mean, my mom had to file charges against him for threatening her and my dad. He was making threats to them. So I don't understand why they wouldn't be looking more into the husband. What about a polygraph test?
So some of that is hearsay.
Yeah, I guess. But the police with my mom when he was texting my mom.
That's a good question.
A conversation between them while he was threatening my mom.
Gotcha. So that's a good question. Has he got any papers? As in, has he been charged with abuse or anything, any restraining orders, anything like that?
He has a recent charge from last year in May for stalking. Yeah, and then go ahead.
No. I was letting you go. There's just a lot of little nuances, and just know I don't completely trust law enforcement or the government. But whenever you get into the constitutionality of things, I'm very much a constitutionalist, and you are innocent until proven guilty. And I also don't believe that you should violate somebody's constitution just to prove them wrong or to prove that they have committed a crime. Because what happens is whenever you go to court and you can't get a conviction because there's going to be evidence that's inadmissible because they violated somebody's constitutional rights to get the evidence that they have. So they have to do their due diligence. They have to take their time. They have to make sure that the evidence that they get is concrete.
I understand that, I guess. I just feel like they aren't taking the whole situation as serious as they should be.
So
should have been, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that if it was my family member, I'd be emotionally connected to it and wanting to run. Just know that if there was a scenario like Taken, I would never call the police. I would be down it. I would be finding it. I would take care of the job myself and deal with the repercussions later. But I understand your sentiment in thinking that they should move faster. But part of due diligence is it takes time.
The problem comes in, though, is they haven't done their due diligence, right? They haven't researched or figured out the backpack. The car was ruined and destroyed. I mean, before the case of arson was actually even finished.
They said it was arson. So then my mom had to file an insurance claim, and for that claim to go through, they needed the vehicle back. So the insurance picked up the vehicle, and then they couldn't do anything with it, so it's been destroyed. But if they had treated it as a missing person case And if they had taken it more seriously, maybe they could have put together that, okay, this isn't arson. Maybe somebody is in danger. What if there was evidence on that car? What if there was anything that could have tied the case together? And now it's nothing can be done about that car. You know, it's too late.
The car is like a small part to it, right? Like, no, I mean, we care about the car. We don't really care about the car. But if the evidence on the car, if there was evidence on the car, or if they would have done a search of the area, because it wasn't a very remote area and it was high centered on some rocks.
That's what people keep saying that, but it's not. There are rocks. So the vehicle it went off the road to the side, and so it wasn't on drivable ground, and it ripped off most of the undercarriage. When they say high centered on rocks, there was rocks underneath it, but I'll have to see if I can pull up a picture at some point and show you what I mean. Yeah. It's not high centered on some rocks. I mean, the rocks there, yeah, I guess it would look like it, but when it means something different, I guess.
Well, whenever you're on rocks and you have no ability for your drive tires to actually touch the ground because the rock is underneath, it may only be a millimeter, but as soon as you're losing traction, you're high centered.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It doesn't have to be like teetering on a rock, right?
Yeah, I guess that's where I was thinking in my mind when people say high centered. I'm like thinking high centered on rocks.
But yeah, it's also hard to know how it would have been because the tires are obviously, the car is not in the state that it was.
Yeah, the tires are completely melted.
Yeah. So, okay, so the search doesn't happen. They don't treat it like it's a missing persons with an arson case. And so then at what point they hold the search? Do they find anything in their initial search after they asked you to pause your brakes on yours?
Did they find anything in their initial search before I did my search? They left a lot of evidence up there. So I've been working with, his name is Dave Cummings. He's the founder of Red Rock Search and Rescue in Vegas. And he's also has experience as a PI. He does search and rescue. I sent him all the pictures from our search, and he says that it looks staged. The officers that I spoke to, the detectives with King County recently, they said that they had found items up in the trees, which doesn't make sense. And another thing that they had said that doesn't make sense is, so that car, all the items that I sent you the pictures of, that's all what they collected from that vehicle and around it. They left a lot of random things for us to find. But the thing is, the remains that were found on the 27th of May weren't her full body remains. It was a leg bone and a partial jaw bone. But what I don't understand is they also are saying that they found 2 truckloads of her belongings. How did she get 2 truckloads up in one vehicle? And then how did she walk 2 truckloads of items 1/10 of a mile to where she ultimately perished? Where did the 2 truckloads of stuff get there? It makes me wonder if somebody else put her there later. Like, I don't understand. So they are saying that they came up with 2 truckloads of items. So they have been collecting items. They have stuff in evidence.
Have they said to you or told you what those items include?
They won't release very much of that information because it's still an open investigation.
Where was Courtney living at the time that all of this happened?
Oh, well, that's a good question. So she was staying with her friend Gilbert, just a guy friend. She never lived with her husband. She was staying with her friend Gilbert in Santa Clara, but she kind of was a couch surfer. She just kind of went wherever she could stay for a while, you know. She didn't have an actual place of her own.
So is the 2 truckloads of stuff considered weird? Like, was Courtney known to have a lot of random items?
It's weird because she's 4'11", 105 pounds soaking wet, and she walked, according to the detectives, this is their theory, she walked 1/10 of a mile, and then that's as far as she could get. And then, but she walked a 1/10 of a mile with 2 truckloads of stuff. How did she carry 2 truckloads of stuff to where she was found? How did the 2 truckloads of stuff get there?
So 1/10 of a mile is 528 feet. That's not that far.
But 2 truckloads of
That's
stuff
like
in her arms?
Yeah, you're talking about a football field, right? 300 or 100 yards, 300 feet, plus the end zones. That's, you know, just under or just over a football field. So you're talking about walking and then coming back, or possibilities. I'm just saying, of course, nobody can load 2 truckloads, and then there's the variables of what they're considering a truckload. I see a truckload as the bed completely full. Well, they could say that an extended cab pickup, having the front seat and stuff piled up in the back, not neatly done, but done in their evidence bags. So it's, you know, a couple boxes in the back of the truck that couldn't fit anymore. So it's the truckload part is kind of the variable in what is a truckload.
It's defining that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, but Courtney was still not found, even with the truckloads of evidence. Was the truckloads of evidence around Courtney, or when Courtney was found?
That's the other thing we're trying to figure out. Because when the detectives did their search, they supposedly searched 167 miles around where the car was found. That the 2 truckloads of stuff and her remains were 1/10 of a mile away from where the car was. So when they did the search with all their volunteers and all the dogs and stuff, when they had done that search for 167 miles, how did they miss the 2 truckloads of stuff and human remains?
Okay, so explain to us the remains. What was found?
So a long bone, which I've been told is like a femur or the leg bone, and then
Yeah, that's the one that goes from your knee to your hip.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And a partial jawbone was found, and we know that because they had to use dental records to identify the remains. And then in that email I sent to you, there's pictures from our search. They marked everything with paper plates and Sharpie. So the list on one of those paper plates is they found a sledgehammer, which they deny finding. Yeah, so the sledgehammer on number 1, they deny finding. The cell phone, number 2, they also deny finding. The clothes, I'm pretty sure is where the remains were these clothes. There's quite a few fire pits up there, and then the long bone, and then the glasses. We found glasses other times, but there was more items they found. But these are just what they left for anybody to find. These paper plates, they had 7 of them. We only found 3 though.
So obviously this is still an open investigation. Hopefully there will be more coming out. But is there anything that you're asking from the general public, or is there anything more that can be done from law enforcement?
Law enforcement, first of all, needs to communicate better with each other. I feel like they're lacking in communication skills. I feel like Kane County and Washington County, I understand that they're two different jurisdictions, but they're working on the same case. So they should be talking to each other to try and put the puzzle pieces together, in my mind. As far as the public goes, I just have to say, somebody knows something. Like the most irrelevant piece of information could be the most useful information. So if anybody knows anything leading up to when she disappeared, anything after she disappeared, anything that might be able to get us some answers as to what happened to her, it would help so much. And just keep sharing the posts on the Facebook page. I'm trying to get as much traction as I can, trying to get news coverage and stuff. I just got to figure out, because before when I was trying to get news coverage, it was more specifically for a missing person. But now it's not a missing persons case, really. It's a homicide, I guess.
Has it been classified as a homicide?
I don't know what they're classifying it. They won't tell me anything because it's still an open investigation.
Okay. Well, I absolutely appreciate you coming on, and a good way to get this out is to actually, what we'll do is we'll send the link to this after we post it, give it to you, and then have you send it to the news stations, right? So now you're out there getting information out, you're talking about it, and if you share it, let people see you talking about it, so then they can talk about it. And if you get people talking about it, then there's going to be traction, so then the news stations are going to want to cover it.
Right.
Okay? So,
right. No, Nancy Grace, everybody. That's what I'm aiming for.
Yes, Nancy Grace.
Nancy Grace.
That's Fox News, by the way. So I would love to keep up on this and give us some more information along the way. Do you have something to say, River?
I just want to say too that I know that, with it being in the small area, I do think that her mental health illnesses and her drug addictions were a problem. But I also think her lack of ties of community and not being a family name in the small area, tourism, and it being a hush area because they want it safe, is a big deal with it. And so I do hope that everybody will share this out and push it, because I think the more traction it gets, the more likely it is that Courtney will receive the justice, as much of a dose of justice Courtney can get.
My poor mom. My mom is losing her mind because of this. Like, my dad died in December. My sister had gone missing in November. And then we found out that she had passed. So not only did my mom lose my dad, but she lost her baby. And it's not right to let this. I can't let my mom go through this for the rest of her life. But not knowing.
I agree with River. Her drug use is no reason to not pursue the case. They should give
seriously. Like, if she had been a part of the Mormon Church or a relative of the police department or something, I feel like it would have been handled completely different.
Oh, without a doubt. But just because somebody is under the influence of drugs or alcohol does not mean that they shouldn't be afforded the same rights as everybody else.
You shouldn't be treated as less than.
But to that, just know that the government is out for themselves. So everybody needs to remember, when it pertains to the government, nobody is special. Buy American, and fuck the ATF.
I love that.
Drag them in, and they'll follow you until the day you die. I tell myself I've done this before. It's hard to get a handle on you walking out the door. So just take another message to the people who know more. The talk is growing old, and so am I. And so why so